Couple young kings.
Look, man, I'm the one they all fear.
Man. Christ, I feel old. As of the 29th of February 2024, Paul Pogba has been officially banned from playing football for the next 4 years. This news was received in a multitude of different ways. One was the epitome of what was a absolute shining light and a kid that had the entire world at his feet, and a perfect example of self-destruction, and what we have left is a shame of what a career should have been. Another way to view it is simply a fact of it being deserved. If you don't have the mentality, the discipline, whatever and so forth to commit yourself to a sport, then you will not come out with the fruits of your labor. Despite having the ability, history will not look well on you. And then of course there's the obvious reasonable side of it, which is he's one of the greatest midfielders to ever play the game. Completely reasonable, really. First things first, tell me down below your thoughts on Paul Pogba, him as a player, his career, kind of where do you sit? Because for me it's quite emotional. When I remember looking back on when he first signed for Manchester United back in 2016, it was a revolutionary moment, one of the biggest moments, biggest signings in Premier League history. The only way I can see this ever being outdone is if Kylian Mbappe goes to Manchester United. I would consider Pogba bigger than when Ronaldo went back, because it felt like the new era. Jose Mourinho was there, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. You got legends with experience and knows how to win trophies. Manchester United felt like they were back. Hashtag Pogback. Stormzy on the mic with a lovely introduction with Paul Pogba, and coming straight off the back of what was a great Euro campaign for him, of course sadly losing in the final, but Paul Pogba had a marvellous campaign for Juventus. And it had everything. It had not only the ability here and now, not only did he have the personality, the brand that matched a club, the stature of Manchester United, but also at the very same time, it had the storyline. A young player that was at the academy, that was let go by Sir Alex Ferguson, deemed not good enough to only go out to the world and find his own way back to his home, so to say. It had everything. So what on earth happened? Tell me your thoughts, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And of course, Mazzola Designs, the best football prints, my own design company. Thank you all so much for support. We actually have hit 10,000 orders on the site a couple of days ago, so that's insanity. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, code Pogba for 20% off, as we've just hit 10,000 orders. So thank you very much for that. And let's get into it. September 2023, a 2-0 win away for Juventus, winning 2-0 at Empoli, and Paul Pogba was a bit concerned. After a substitute performance, after having a long period on the sidelines of an injury, he felt something pop up again. When Paul Pogba moved to Juventus, he already picked up an injury in his left knee. It was a torn meniscus, similar to what Neymar has as well. That was the last time we've seen Paul Pogba on the pitch. Playing football was 6 months ago. However, only a week later, after that game against Empoli, Paul Pogba also came through with an adverse reaction, an adverse result of a anti-doping control sample in Juve's season opener against Udinese, in which he was on the bench. Now, the reason I'm going into this is because everyone knows about the 4 years and the story around Pogba, but no one actually really knows about what actually happened. What's this doping case? What actually happened here? So I think it is important to get this out there. Non-indigenous metabolites was found in his system. Basically, things in his system that typically wouldn't be there or created by the body itself. This substance was in question called DHEA. It's a long word. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but it's a substance which is banned. Due to this, he has been suspended by Juventus ever since that injury against Empoli. Therefore, he can no longer go to the Juventus medical facility or work out with his teammates ever since September. Now, the story on Paul Pogba's side is that he never knowingly or deliberately took this substance. He never had any idea that this was in his system in the first place, and he was taking anything that even had this. DHEA is a steroid, basically. It's a steroid that in your system develops and naturally boosts your testosterone production. This has been banned due to it being found to be abused in the past by athletes in a variety of different sports, as it is effective in muscle building and strength, just basically like a typical typical steroid that you would think of. You take steroids, you typically gain a lot of mass. Paul Pogba was offered a plea deal of 2 years, or a plea deal means that if he accepts that he took it and that he basically finds himself guilty of taking it, then it'd be a 2-year ban. They didn't take it, and they continued onwards with this case. What has Paul Pogba said? I've not heard of this yet. Well, this is what he said about this conclusion. Pogba, and I quote, called the decision incorrect and described himself as sad, shocked, and heartbroken that everything I have built in my professional career has been taken away from me, because he will no longer be playing football until the age of 35 if this 4-year ban does maintain. Now, of course, this will be appealed, and I'll be honest, I will be very surprised if it does last to 4 years. It could be 18 months, it could be 2 years. It's very rare that I think it does maintain like this. This is obviously not the first bit of news that's come out regarding Paul Pogba in the last 12 to 18 months. One large story was an attempt of extortion, which led to the arrest of 5 people, including his own brother, Matthias, who was released afterwards. Pogba came out saying that money changes people. It can break a family, it can create a war, and sometimes I just find myself thinking, I don't want to have money anymore. I don't want to play anymore. I just want to be a normal person. And it's really hard to come out of this not feeling sympathy for Paul Pogba, despite whatever you feel about him in terms of how he's dealt with his career and his personality, and maybe you don't think he works hard enough to really take advantage of the clear ability and talent that he has, which is beyond the wildest dreams of many footballers out there. He is still a human, and for anyone to kind of have their career peter out in the way that it has in the last 3, 4, 5 years is sad to see, no matter what side of it you are. And you may say, well, that's because of his own fault. Many will say that Paul Pogba has wasted his talent and his career. Many people may counter and say that he's achieved more than what many players will in their lifetimes at the highest level of the game. Exactly where would you rank him? I don't exactly know, really. In terms of legacy, he's not even in the thought process for me for even being top 50 best midfielders, then never mind being top 3. I'm seeing some conversations online about comparing Paul Pogba and Kevin De Bruyne, and I don't even know how that's even possible, but apparently that's the case. Because yes, you may play the hypothetical man argument, when hypothetical man is a great meme, which I think is quite accurate to Paul Pogba, that what if on his day, this type of jargon is thrown out a lot regarding Paul Pogba, and it is funny to see. He is that. He is on his day. He is what if. And yes, on his day, Paul Pogba is one of the greatest midfielders potentially in the last decade or so. We cannot forget the conversations, the dialogue that people had for many a time at Man United for 6 years almost, of how to unlock Paul Pogba. How do you unlock Paul Pogba? That is what we heard for genuinely 5 to 6 years, and people, now that he's left United, now want to look back on only the good times, and which was there were some great moments and great performances, of course, within that 6-year period. They want to forget about everything else and all the frustration that came along with it, and that's just how nostalgia works. That is just common what you find. It does go without saying that to be one of the greatest midfielders of all time, or even top 50, you don't need another midfielder alongside you to unlock you. You just do it. It's in your nature. You make the players around you better. You elevate them to your level. You help them alongside it. And Paul Pogba, of course, had some great moments, but he also had some incredible lulls. And the frustration within the fan base is, you can still see it to this very day. The idea of player power culture at Man United has been stepped down since Ten Hag came in. However, Paul Pogba was always seen to be bigger than the club, and always been seen as the loudest voice within the club as well, that can really dictate the power of who stays and who goes. And that is now fading away, which I think is a good thing. It didn't take too long before United fans really started to feel a great sense of almost apathy to Paul Pogba, that it felt like he didn't really take the club seriously. He didn't really take his situation seriously, feeling like he's just kind of floating around and caring more about the brand and about everything outside of on the pitch than what you're meant to do on it. And that, again, people forget now because it's back in a couple of years ago, but that was the main conversation for all those years. It does go without saying, Paul Pogba, talent-wise, ability-wise, his passing range is one of his most marvelous qualities, and I think there is different ways of technique in terms of how to do that is remarkable and is elite level. And he's got all the other qualities too. He's also got the nature to take on a man, to drop a shoulder, to show a bit of flair, to be also a creative, to have that ability to really put people on their feet, which is something that you cannot teach in football. You're born with that. However, the main issue was work ethic. Well, the main issue was his mindset on the pitch and how he comes across, his body language. This is epitomized by his last Manchester United game. Man United played Liverpool at Anfield in April, when he withdrew from the game, hobbling off the pitch after just 10 minutes. And in the away end, they barely responded. There wasn't many claps, and that is kind of symbolic of the way that it ended with him at Manchester United. I think across the entire 6 years, Paul Pogba's position was always kind of confusing. Sometimes he played like a left winger, then he was a number 10, then a number 8, then he was like even a number 6 and dropped deep in some parts of his career at Man United. No one really knew exactly what his best role was, and therefore the conversation of who do we get to unlock him came through. He should have been one of the greatest. He should have been one of the greatest in at least the last generation. Sadly, it didn't work out that way, and he will be always seen as a what-if player. Even if he comes back in 2 years' time, if the 4 years is cut in half, where would he be going at the age of 33? Well, my friend, welcome to Saudi Arabia. I don't feel a great level of happiness doing this, because I really like him in terms of how he plays football. I think he's so unique, and what he offers is something that I've not seen for quite a while. So it's a real shame. So, that's the video. I'll see you next time. See ya.